Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Happy Valentine's Day for those of you who are into Valentine's Day. If you're not quite into Valentine's Day, but we're always into love. And so we love you. We thank you for always coming in, registering, and showing up this morning. Today's topic is one that has been a little while in the making. The mindset for possibility. Possibility thinking is one of those core themes that underpins all of our leadership development programs here at CARICAD. And so we thought we would take this time, this opportunity to hear from one of our esteemed members of our alumni to talk about the mindset for possibility. As usual, we always want you to keep in mind our ground rules, right? We want this to be a good learning experience, even though it might be short. And so we do that by focusing our attention, by closing all the other software applications on our device apart from Zoom, and muting your phones, or if you can't mute your phones, maybe turn the ringer down. Just remind your colleagues, this is just a 1 hour slot for your learning and development. You'll be definitely be available to them afterwards. And of course, we encourage you to plug in your internet cable if you have it. And while for our webinars, we don't necessarily insist that you have to use your microphones. You can definitely use the chat feature, and many of you have started to do so already. But when the time comes for discussions, questions, and you want to vocalize, and definitely you want to ensure that you have a good working headset and microphone. And we always want to know, where are you joining us from today? I do believe many of you are from our lovely region, the Caribbean, and from our member states, or one of our 17 member states that CARICAD serves. But you may even be from outside of the region. We invite you to place in the chat. Just let us know, where are you joining us from today? So I am joining from Jamaica. I work remotely for CARICAD in Jamaica. Simone, my friend, welcome back from BVI. Ian from Trinidad, Raven also from Trinidad. Wendell from Tobago. Wendell, I really want to go to Tobago. I have not been as yet. Also, Michelle Darcille, from Public Service Academy in Trinidad, yes. Leandra joining from Jamaica. Abuzar, one of our alumni, joining us from Tobago. I see folks from Dominica. Ornella from Trinidad and Tobago. Cherry, hi Cherry from Barbados. Good to see you. Patricia, Patricia is like a regular from St. Lucia. And Nadia as well. Both of them are esteemed alumni. Sade from Trinidad, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Shirley, also from Montserrat. Jacqueline from Trinidad. That's one of our alumni as well. Renald from Trinidad. Lots of Trinidad in the house today, and I love it. Kian from BVI, one of our recent alumni, graduated from our program recently. Shilsha. Oh, there, Miss Payne from Montserrat. Welcome. Emily from Trinidad, Beverly from BVI, Kim, Julian from Grenada, the Spice Isle. Best dark chocolate comes from Grenada, let me tell you. Joyanne, our alumni from BIM. Yes. Rafida from Trinidad. Yes, I know this is Carnival season coming up there. See some other folks from Trinidad, Nisha, Diane. Charlene, hi Charlene. Charlene, I had the privilege of coaching Charlene on a leadership program from Antigua. Welcome. Nicole from Barbados. Jazan from Trinidad. Love it, love it, love it, love it. And so, just going to allow a couple other people to join us. Jazan from Trinidad, yes. I noticed that Shailene just joined us. Hi, Shailene. Shailene just finished our Leading Change workshop from National Land Agency in Jamaica. All right, good to have you all. So we want to get into the mindset as we talk about the mindset for possibility. And we found this lovely, very short, just 2.5 minutes there about video. It's a lovely little cartoon story that just puts us in the frame of mind for getting ready to delve into this topic of the mindset for possibility. So allow me to just bring that video up momentarily. Let me just make sure the sound is shared. Just give me a second here, folks. All right, there. Or just give me a second. For some reason, I am not seeing my share sound feature. So Roger, I'm not sure what's happening. I wonder if you can assist me in some way. All right, I think I know what I'm doing wrong now. I need to share this thing first. Haha, it's coming up. There you go, folks.
Possibility Thinking by Dina Wildgoose and Victoria Herriman. I'm fed up, I'm stupid, I'm doing nothing worthwhile. I'm frowning, it's useless, I can't even smile. What's the point in speaking? No one listens to me. There's little to look forward to. It's hopeless, you see. These were the words Miss P used to say to herself from the start till the end of the day, until one day she decided to break her bad habit and see what positive impact she could make on the planet. Miss P started thinking, what's most important to me? She Googled hundreds of values and settled on 3. They helped her to focus, made things easy to see. By chance, her 3 values began ACT. A stands for authentic, be real and be true. C stands for connect and community too. T stands for trust. I trust you, you trust me. Her 3 values ACT, spelled ACT. She wanted to act, values clear in her head. She started to think about what she had read, about the oceans and planet and how they were dying, and thought saving them was something worth trying. She needed ideas. She grabbed pen and paper, said, I'll start with a question, the rest will come later. Where to start? What, how, who might she ask? Adding might I possibly, she set her own task. So she wrote down the question in capital letters. How might I possibly help change the world for the better? She thought, and at first she had trouble. Then one idea came, and then came a couple. The more that she had them, the quicker they came. She wished that her pen was as fast as her brain. She thought of some prompts. She made it a game. Possibility thinking. She gave it a name. What might I do quickly? Who'd be able to help? She started to laugh in spite of herself. What's the worst that could happen? Who in the world might I call? What would an expert say, if I could find one at all? If I had a wand, what would I make disappear? The more she thought, the more it all became clear. Her thinking was done, she had 40 ideas. She picked one to follow a pirate career, to build a boat with an incredible crew. She smiled and she knew what she needed to do. She'd sail round the world, sharing tools all around, helping others to get their ideas off the ground. Possibility thinking gave Miss P permission to be a great captain with values and mission, with a crew and a toolbox and a plan to keep sharing. making a positive difference in the world we all live in. So if you're ever stuck and need some ideas, with possibility thinking, you need have no fears. Remember Captain Possibility and her tool-laden crew with her shareable toolbox that's open for you.
And I'm curious to get any feedback on that video. Wasn't that just so cute? But lots of interesting concepts that I think certainly jumped out for me. You know, I liked particularly that, you know, many ideas, but she just started with one. Never disdain the small first step. I'm just curious to hear from you in the chat. You know, you can continue to share where you're joining us from today. And just what caused you to register for this webinar? Nobody forced you, but there's some reason why you thought this was an interesting topic. Betty Comby, my sister, she says change begins with you. Exactly. The mindset for possibility is that mindset for change, and it begins with you. Any other thoughts we can share in the chat? And just really want to big up Betty and her team of collaborators. They were the main presenters in our webinar last month. And if you missed that, just go to our YouTube channel and you can catch up on that webinar. Nadia says it reminded her of changing the story, change the situation. Juliet says the mindset for possibility is endless. Wendell says, help me to overcome the culture of negative thinking. Oh yes, Wendell. You know, Shaylee said she took charge of her situation and took an incremental approach to make the changes she wanted. Exactly. Taramati says, making a change. I like that, making, right? Because we're always in that process of continuous improvement. Hello, Nadine from Trinidad. Nareen says, the growth mindset is the basis for how you react and interact with your work environment and your staff. Indeed. Raven said she understood that the change starts with her. Exactly, exactly. So thank you all for that. And so it is my absolute delight to introduce our guest today, somebody who is ably qualified to speak on this topic of the mindset for possibility. And so while I introduce her, she will get her video up, and also I will stop sharing and she will start to, you know, share her own presentation, start to upload that. We have our special guest, Mrs. Marsha Smith. Mrs. Gentlemen, you see how beautiful she is? She is taken, okay? And been married for, let me see, almost 24 years, and a proud mother of one adult son and two teenagers. Marsha is an esteemed member of our network, right? She, believe it or not, is so young. She has served in the public service of BVI for over 25 years. And some of the positions she held while working with the government of BVI is that of Chief Training Officer. She was responsible for the Learning and Development Unit for the entire government of BVI. She is a pioneer, and particularly a pioneer of e-learning. So when COVID hit, she wasn't knocked down for very long. She just pivoted, right? And BVI became one of the first, if not the first, come to think of it, that was able to pivot their learning and development unit to transition to virtual, right? She has really made a wonderful contribution to both the private and public sectors of BVI. And she is now lead consultant of TodmanBay Consulting, which is a firm focused on professional development for individuals. She holds a master's degree with distinction in human resource management and consulting from the Lancaster University in the UK. This is somebody who loves people. This is somebody who, when I asked her, can she speak on this topic? I didn't have to fudge around. Who should I ask? Who shall I ask? It had to be Marsha, because she embodies this mindset. And so I hand you over in the capable hands of my sister and friend and our colleague and friend, Marsha Smith.
Thank you so much, Lloyd. Thank you. And a warm welcome to everybody. Thank you. It's my honor and my pleasure to be speaking with you this morning. And I know that our time is short, but I am so happy and I'm privileged to be here this morning. And what I want to do, and of course, good morning, everyone. And I do see some names, not only here, I'm in the BVI. I didn't type in the chat earlier, but I am coming to you from the BVI. And I do see some former colleagues here in the BVI, as well as some of my friends around the region. So good morning to everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. So what I'm going to do, just to save on bandwidth, I hope it's okay. I'm going to actually turn my camera off so that I can save bandwidth and make sure you guys can get everything that I have to share with you this morning for the next few minutes. So is that okay, Lloyd? I can go ahead and turn my camera off. Is that okay?
That's all right. You don't want to distract us with your beauty.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. So mindset for possibility. And, I was so happy when Lloyd approached me about this topic. I started to get my wheels turning right away, so many different things they can talk about. And it's a very exhaustive topic. But of course, we only have a few minutes together. So I have narrowed it down as much as I can to be able to share with you. So let's get started. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to just go through basically 3 modules. So distinguishing between the types of mindset, understanding the role of mindset in working and leading, and then learning methods for cultivating a growth mindset. I'm just going to share a few tips with you in that very last module. But the first thing that I want to do with you this morning is to share an icebreaker. And what it is, I want you to classify yourself. I'm going to ask you to type in the chat, and Lloyd, I'll ask you to highlight some of what was said. But I'm going to ask you to type in the chat and tell me, if you had to classify yourself as one of these, you're either classifying yourself as a stone or a rock or a rubber band, which would you choose and why? And just, it says list as many reasons, but you don't have to do a whole lot, because I know it's quite a bit of us on here today. So just give one reason. So list which one you would choose. Would you classify yourself as a rock or as a rubber band, and why? And then Lloyd, I'll just ask you to highlight a few of them for me as well.
Oh, yes. Well, Betty, right out of the bat, she says she's a rubber band because she's flexible. Nadia says the same thing, as also Shireen. So 3 flexible ladies here. Simple rubber band too, but she said because she adapts. Like Taramati says, the rubber band, I hold things together. Yes. So everybody's a rubber band, my dear. Yes.
All right.
This is our commissioner of police in Antigua. So he's a rubber band. He keeps expanding. Yes, Diane says she's a rubber band. She's adaptable. Ornella, ability to adapt. Rubber band. Sandra, flexible. Rubber band, because I can stretch. Says rubber teen. I can do many things. Angela says a rock. That represents stability for her.
Okay.
Julia says also a rock. I am solid in decisions I make. Charlotte says, I wish I could be both. Charlotte, I must say. Right? Cherry says a rock, stable, sure foundation. Josanne she decides she's a bit of both. Depends on the situation. Shailene says a rock, because she's loyal, will not budge. A rock can be placed on things and keep them from blowing up. Okay. Kim says a rock, firm. Patricia, rubber band. Stretching, she can consistently stretch and be flexible. A rock, says J. Yolanda. because she can withstand adversity. Althea says the rock is strong. Althea says also a rock is strong. Rafida, rock in decision making. A rock can, yes, Althea says a rock is also strong. Yes, I think I've captured a number of them there.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. So thank you guys for participating. Now, I'm not going to tell you too much more about this exercise until we get to the end. I'm going to come back to it at the very end, okay? So just bear that in mind. Now, we're going to begin today's session by looking at what mindset is, and we're also going to be visiting the types of mindset. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, mindset is a person's way of thinking, and it's their opinions, right? So your mindset is your self-talk. It's what you tell yourself about yourself. You know, so what do you say when nobody else is there, when nobody else is listening, when it's just you and your mind? What are you telling yourself? Okay, that's your self-talk. So it determines how you approach life, life's challenges and your goals in general. So let's look at the types of mindset. Okay, the types of mindset. Dr. Carol Dweck has done extensive research on motivation and mindset, and she's really classified mindset into two types. So as highlighted there, fixed mindset and growth mindset. Okay, fixed mindset and growth mindset. Now, when someone has a fixed mindset, they believe that their character, their intelligence, their talents, and their abilities are fixed traits, okay? They believe that they're fixed traits. So in other words, they believe that those traits cannot be altered. So if you ever heard anybody saying something like, this is just how I am. Anybody ever heard anybody saying that? This is just how I am, all right? That comes from a fixed mindset. And they usually characterize their situations as either I can do it or I can't do it. You know, they don't show the flexibility in there. It's either I can or I can't. Okay, so usually that's what happens with someone with a fixed mindset. And persons with a fixed mindset tend to seek validation from other people, and they don't typically like to get involved in tasks where they don't know the outcome. Okay, so if you know anybody who likes to really be in control or they don't want to participate at all, either I'm in control, I'm the one in control, or I don't want to participate, they could possibly be persons who have a fixed mindset. So for this reason, they typically limit their involvement to tasks that carry, that don't carry much risk or don't carry much experimentation or much, they don't want to be spontaneous in the process, okay? They really want to have the control. So in contrast to the fixed mindset, though, when an individual has a growth mindset, they believe that their character, their intelligence, their talents, and their abilities can be what? They can be developed, right? For this reason, the growth mindset is often referred to as a learning mindset. So, and you can see the correlation there, because if they're in a mindset of growth and they believe that they can be developed, then for this reason, it's considered a learning mindset, okay? So the fixed mindset is not considered a learning mindset. The growth mindset is what's considered a learning mindset. Persons with a growth mindset have a passion for learning. They tend to focus heavily on personal development. And I wanna say that I think everyone on here today has a growth mindset, because I think you all have a passion for learning, or you wouldn't be here, right? I don't think anybody forced you to be on here today. So, you tend to focus on personal development and not necessarily doing better than others. That's not really the goal. The goal is really to develop yourself. When you have a growth mindset, it's really the focus is really on developing yourself, okay? Making yourself better. So people are born with a love of doing, but unfortunately, a fixed mindset can undo that. So let me ask you, can you imagine, right? A baby is born, they start to crawl and so forth, and then, they get to the point where they start to now try to walk. Can you imagine if a baby throws its hands up in the air and say, you know what? I'm done with this walking thing. It's too much work. No. So a baby does not decide that they are not good, that they're going to stop trying to walk because it's difficult. So remember that, like I said, we're born with a growth mindset. But then unfortunately, as the years go on, it kind of gets changed, whether from our environment, etc. All right. And then, you know, a lot of us like to say to children, no, or you can't do, and so forth. So we are actually the ones who end up changing that growth mindset. But people with a growth mindset plunge into things that are difficult. And they ask questions like, okay, so they want to know, what did I learn? Or what can I learn from this experience? So I've had the experience and maybe things didn't go as well as I had hoped for it to go. So what can I learn from that experience? Okay. So persons with a growth mindset are not typically discouraged by failure. And they believe that with hard work and dedication, they can learn anything that they don't know, okay? And they can always improve their abilities. So that said, I want to actually go through, I'm just gonna play a very short video for you. I hope I shared my sound. I think I did. But I'm gonna play a very short video for you on growth mindset. So just take a listen.
One of the most effective ways of increasing your motivation may sound obvious or crazy, but it's no joke. In neuroscience, it's called having a growth mindset. Scientists have found that adopting a growth mindset can greatly improve motivation. So what is it? In short, it's simply believing that you are able to grow and improve. This definition makes it seem like everyone should already have a growth mindset. But in reality, thoughts like those can get easily interrupted or erased by negativity. Anytime we think things like, I can't do this right now, or I don't need to learn that, we are interrupting our growth mindset and potentially holding ourselves back. If you are one of the many people who have difficulty believing in yourself, keep in mind it's proven that all humans have the ability to grow and improve. Having a growth mindset is one of the best ways to tap into your unlocked potential.
All right. So as we conclude module 1, and I hope that you're able to get something because I used the video to kind of bring it back all together, right? But as we conclude this first module on distinguishing between the types of mindsets, I created this table, and this table is actually adapted from a graphic by Nigel Holmes, just kind of bringing together what Dr. Dweck went through in terms of fixed mindset versus growth mindset. And so to be able to distinguish better between them, let's take a quick look at it. And with a fixed mindset, intelligence is static. I'm just going to go down the one side, okay? So with a fixed mindset, intelligence is static, and it leads to a desire to look smart, and therefore a tendency to avoid challenges, to give up easily when faced with obstacles, to see effort as fruitless or worse, okay? Also, you have a tendency to ignore useful negative feedback. Mind you, I said useful negative feedback, and also have a tendency to feel threatened by the success of others. Now, in contrast, the growth mindset, intelligence can be developed, okay? And it leads to a desire to learn and therefore a tendency to embrace challenges. So remember, in the fixed mindset, you're avoiding the challenges. But in a growth mindset, you're embracing the challenges. You're also persisting in the face of setbacks. So I didn't say that because you have a growth mindset that you no longer have challenges. No, you still have challenges. But in the face of those challenges, you're able to persist, okay? You also see effort as a path, a way to mastery, and you learn from criticism, and then finally find lessons and inspiration in the success of others. So you don't, unlike the fixed mindset where you feel threatened by the success of others, when you have a growth mindset, you tend to find lessons and inspiration in the success of others. So I hope that makes sense, okay? But I wanted to bring it together through the table so that you can see an easy comparison there. All right. All right, so let's go on to the second module. So module 2. So now that we've distinguished between the two types, we're going to take a look at the role of mindset in working and leading. Because of course, all of us, I think all of us here working in some sort of a team. So some of the benefits of adapting a growth mindset include increased confidence, willingness to engage in challenging opportunities, quick recovery from setbacks, improvement in your mood, and an opportunity to work more effectively with others. So imagine if the majority of persons on your team adopted a growth mindset. You know, your team would be unstoppable. Your team would be so unstoppable if the majority of persons in your team had a growth mindset, because you'll all be lifting each other up and you'll all be encouraging each other, and you'll be able to, you know, to bounce off of one another, that positive energy, okay? When we talk about a mindset of possibility, you know, that also has a lot of positivity injected into it. So let's take a look at how having a growth mindset can aid us in the execution of our duties. Okay, we're gonna take a look at that. So I think I jumped ahead a slide, did I? Yes, I did. Sorry. All right, so imagine, we're gonna look at some challenges, right? So imagine that the challenge that's presented is that you are now being charged with leading a big project. So, you know, you've never done that before and you've been chosen. You said, hey, you know, we see your potential, we know you can do it, and you've been now tasked with leading this big job, right? This big project. So the growth mindset would say, although I never led a project of this magnitude. So remember, you're acknowledging, you know that you haven't led a project of this magnitude, and that's okay. But here's the kicker though. You say, I have the experience and the knowledge, as well as an experienced and creative team to get the job done. But here's the part that I want to really focus in on. You say, even if we make some mistakes along the way, okay? Even if we make some mistakes along the way, because understand that you're going to make mistakes. There's things that may happen. Of course, we don't want to have any life-threatening mistakes, anything of that sort of magnitude. But understand that a part of growing, or in order to grow, it involves us learning from our mistakes, okay? So this person is embracing mistakes as an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to grow, not just as an individual, but as a team. So that, remember I said to you, you know, imagine if the whole team is adopting a growth mindset, right? So next one, now imagine that your department has been informed of the need for new technology. And Lori mentioned it earlier when she talked about that pivot. Okay, 3 years ago, when we were all thrown into having to learn new technologies and just to figure it out, right? And this is an actual scenario for me. Okay, so imagine that we now have to be introduced and use new technology. This means that you must now pivot. Okay, it means that you must now pivot. We heard that was the word of the year, I think, for 2020 and 2021. Okay, under these circumstances. But the growth mindset would say, this is out of my comfort zone. So again, you acknowledge, yes, it's out of my comfort zone. But guess what? I am happy to be learning the new technology, because why? It's going to enhance not only my performance, but the performance of the organization. So you're learning and growing, your organization is learning and growing, and I see that as a win-win situation, okay? So this person is embracing the new technology as an opportunity to do what? To learn and grow as an individual while improving the organization's performance, all right? So as it pertains to leading a team, help your team to thrive by providing feedback using a growth mindset. Our performance reviews and so forth can go so much smoother if we approach it from a growth mindset as opposed to from a fixed mindset, all right? So you want to be sure that that the focus of your praise is on your colleagues' efforts. Now get this, okay? You want to make sure it's on your colleagues' efforts and not on their abilities. When you focus on their efforts, you are taking a growth mindset approach. But when you focus on their abilities, you are taking a fixed mindset approach. So I'm going to give you 2 examples just to clarify what I mean. Okay, I'm going to give you 2 examples. So in this first example, you're saying to Kelly, wow, you're really smart. So when you focus on the part where you say that they're smart, what you're doing is you're actually doing what you're focusing in from a fixed mindset perspective. But if you use the approach of growth mindset, our approach would be something along the lines of, Kelly, you must have put a lot of time dedicated into completing this project. This is where we focus on efforts. Remember, the idea is to focus on your efforts, not on your abilities, okay? Now, second one, in this second example, from the fixed mindset perspective, we're not being very helpful to Joe when we say something like, not everyone is meant to be fit and lose weight, Joe. That's not very helpful, right? So instead, we could be a lot more supportive to Joe with a growth mindset approach. So you could say something to Joe like, hey, Joe, this is fantastic. Last week you were lifting 5 pounds. And this week, because of your consistency, effort, right? When we talk about consistency, that's the effort that was put in, right? So because of your consistency, you're able to lift 8 pounds. So that's the growth mindset approach, okay? So it's all about changing the way that we think and the way that we approach the persons that we interact with, all right? So that was a very short synopsis on how to cultivate it in our teams. Now, the last thing that we're going to look at, I know I'm going really fast, but I know I only have a few more minutes left, but we're going to look at a few tips now for cultivating a growth mindset, okay? A few tips for cultivating a growth mindset. So number 1, improve your self-talk. What are you saying to yourself? Improve your self-talk. Be aware of how you feel outside of your comfort zone and be mindful of what you tell yourself. What I want to say, though, is that you want to give yourself permission to learn and to grow. Don't be closed off. Give yourself the permission. And also be patient with yourself, because sometimes what happens is that we want to have the change now. So we're doing, but then we get frustrated because we don't feel as though it's happening fast enough, okay? So give yourself the permission, but also have the patience to learn and to grow, all right? Number 2, compare your current progress to your past progress. Don't compare it to the progress of others, okay? And I was having a discussion with Loy about this yesterday, but one of the things is that you want to be comparing yourself to your good progress. So of course you may have been, let's say, at a time in your life when things were a little bit different for you. So yes, you've made progress at that time, but you know, you want to be really honing in on the positive side of it. So where you've had good progress, you want to compare your current progress to that progress, okay? So that you're always developing, always growing, all right? Celebrate the small successes. Celebrate the small successes, and not just during the journey, but even after the journey, okay? So a person might see you celebrating, they may not even know why you're celebrating, okay? But you know what you've accomplished, you know what you had to overcome. Celebrate it, okay? It's yours, celebrate it. And number 3, learn from others. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And of course, make good use of technology. We have technology and we have resources that are available to us. You know, whether it be, yes, we have the technology, but even in terms of resources, we also have persons who maybe are mentors or coaches, you know, just use them, okay? We have so much available to us, and there's people who want to see us succeed. So tap into the right people, and people are always willing to share information with you when they're interested in seeing you growing and they see you making an effort to learn and to grow, all right? So let's look at some examples. And I'm gonna do this really quickly. So I wanted you to look at some sample statements and as we look at the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset, in this particular instance, somebody with a fixed mindset may say, my potential is predetermined. But what could we say instead? So from the growth mindset perspective, we could say, my effort and attitude determines my abilities. You see how different that sounds when you say it like that? So don't focus on, what you can't do. Focus on developing your abilities. Okay, next one. Fixed mindset. I can't do it. I'm just not good enough. But from a growth mindset, you can say, I can do anything I put my mind to. All right, I can do anything I put my mind to. Next one. I stick to what I know. You ever heard anybody say that? That person who will tell you, I don't know about that. I stick to what I know. How about you say something like, I try new things, or I like to try new things, right? Next one. Feedback and criticism are attacks on me. Some persons feel that way. They feel that if they get feedback, that it's a personal attack on them. But no, instead, we could look at it as feedback is constructive and helps me to learn. Because how else do we understand and learn what we need to improve, right?
Oh, yes. That reminds me, in our leadership program, we always say feedback is a gift.
Yes.
It's a gift.
Yes, yes. It certainly is a gift. So when you're able to learn from, what somebody else has observed of your performance, etc. And, so I love to receive feedback. It's not always easy to hear, but it's good to receive. Okay. So thanks for that, Lloyd. Next one, I'm not progressing as quickly as Joe. Guys, don't compare yourself to Joe. Joe is Joe, okay? How about you say instead, I've improved over my last performance. Okay, so you celebrate that. Celebrate the fact that you've had the improvement, okay? Next one, Kelly is better than me. I'll never be that good. Again, don't compare yourself to Kelly. Say, I can learn from Kelly. So you learn from Kelly, okay? You can even ask Kelly, how did you accomplish your goal, or even ask about, some lessons that were learned along the way, okay? Next one, I'm failing. I won't ever get it. Instead of saying that, you could say, I'm learning from my mistakes, okay? I'm learning from my mistakes. So if you take that sort of approach and really just sit and carve out, if you find yourself leaning towards the fixed mindset approach, it's just a matter of then saying, okay, how can I change my language? How can I change my self-talk so that it comes from a growth mindset? And it's something that you have to work on, okay? All right, so as we conclude, final thoughts. I bring this back up again. So now, if you think of it from the perspective of mindset, and you don't have to answer, okay? I'm not asking you to change your answer or anything like that, but if you think of it from the perspective of mindset, would you change your original response if you had to classify yourself as a rock or a rubber band? And I heard a lot of really good responses when we started in terms of why persons chose to be a rock, or why they would choose to be a rubber band, okay? But just think about it and think about the stretching and the growing. But I did hear, the really good reasons for choosing the rock as well. But like I said, you don't have to put it in the chat or anything like that, but I just want you to think about it. All right. But as we conclude, I want to leave you with some words. And I want to say to you guys, grow and learn through your challenges and experiences. Things are not going to always be easy. Things are, I think I'm speaking to the choir here when I say that, right? But grow and learn through your challenges and experiences. Embrace them. Embrace them as opportunities to learn, okay? Remember that you are meant to thrive. Hello? Remember that you are meant to thrive, and don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise, okay? You are meant to thrive. And I want you to say it with me. You're not going to be unmuting your mics or anything, but just say it with me in your personal space where you are. Say to yourself, I may feel uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay? I may feel uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it anyway. And in the one in the bottom, the green one, discomfort is a breeding ground for success. Say it to yourself. I can't hear you, but you say it. Discomfort is a breeding ground for my success. All right. I want you to understand that your success and your growth and your learning happens on the other side of discomfort. Okay. When we're in our comfort zone, we're not growing. Where we start to grow is when we're stretching, when we're doing some uncomfortable things. So take the uncomfortable action. All right. So I have some homework for you. I want you to be aware of when you have a fixed mindset. So as you have your thoughts and as you have your conversations, listen out for it. Listen out for that fixed mindset and actively pursue changing it to a growth mindset. Okay, actively pursue it. When you feel it creeping in, you take the actions and you make the changes. Okay, and then I want you to do some reflection. And I'm gonna send these questions to Lloyd so that she can also share with you, or you can just take a screenshot of this if you want. But I want you to do some reflection. One, I want you to think, in which areas of my life do I have a growth mindset, right? In which areas of my life do I have a growth mindset? But I also want you to think of, in which areas of my life do I have a fixed mindset? Because you may see a correlation. You may realize that there are certain aspects of your life in which you have a fixed mindset and certain aspects of your life in which you have a growth mindset, and see how you can make adjustments to change the fixed mindset to a growth mindset, okay? Number 3, in what periods of my life did my mindset affect how I approached a project or activity? So as you think back to different projects or different activities that you may have conducted, maybe events that you organized, think of, how mindset affected how you approached that project or activity. Okay. Number 4, under what circumstances did I shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, and what prompted that change? And the last one I want you to think about in reflection is, what is one area in which I will strengthen my growth mindset? So I'm not asking you to make a list, a whole long list, okay? Just one area, one area. What is one area in which I will strengthen my growth mindset? And so you make that commitment to yourself. So I'm not asking you to share this with anyone. It's really for you, to do your reflection, okay? So I want to say thank you so much for our time together today. If you want to reach out to me, you can contact me here. But I want to hand it back over to Lloyd, because I know that we probably have some questions. So Lloyd, thank you so much for the opportunity.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. This has been so enlightening. And so everyone, we want to give you the opportunity to maybe have some questions or some comments. And so if you have any questions, you can post it in the chat. You can either raise your hand. So Betty says, how do you convince someone with a very fixed mindset to change to one of growth?
That's a good question.
Yes.
That's a very good question.
That's an awesome question.
Yes. The thing is, Betty, what I would say is, one, be the example. But 2, I would say, to put things in place. If you have, I don't know if you have influence over the person, but if you do, I would say that you put things in place where you can encourage the growth mindset. So even in your conversation, even in the way that you approach the individual, what is it that you say that helps to create a breeding ground for growth, right? You can even perhaps agree on the way that you'll converse with each other, right? So it's a question where it can go in a number of different ways. So I don't know if you have influence over the person, if the person has influence over you. What I can say as well is that you can also maybe have a discussion about how you communicate with each other, so that you have an agreement as to well, this is the type of conversation that we'll have. This is the type of talk that we'll have. when we speak to each other. So I hope that helps.
No, indeed. And I think ultimately, the unit of change is the individual.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody has to make that individual choice.
Yes.
You can't make the choice for somebody else. The only person we can actually change is ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's so important for us, especially those of us who lead teams, because sometimes we can be trying everything, every tool in the book, and we feel like we're not making a breakthrough. But ultimately, the individual has to make a decision for themselves,
Yes, yes.
Now, there are a couple of comments in the chat. So Charlene says it's a very enlightening session. Beverly's asking if you could go back to the second to last slide, those questions, the homework list.
Okay, sure.
And Maria wants to add it to that list. She says,
please.
The question she would add is this: how can I mindfully acknowledge the incidents that led to my fixed mindset so I can recognize the trigger and mindfully adjust?
I like that. Yes.
I like that one.
Yes.
Maria. In fact, I want to make sure that I copy and paste it somewhere.
Yes, please.
Because you are so right.
Yes.
A lot of times, there is a particular incident that threw us into a fixed mindset state. And so we need to be able, in order to deal with it, to address it, we have to first be able to recognize that.
Yes.
And to intentionally make that shift.
And intentionally is the key word there. That because if we don't do it intentionally, then it just kind of may happen or may not. But if we are intentional about making that shift, then again, through that experience, we're growing.
No, indeed. Here is a question that I have. And, of late, particularly in a lot of our public services, but I think particularly of my colleagues in Jamaica, who have been interfacing with a lot of late. And they have been having some rocky roads as they deal with the public sector compensation review. And hopefully, the light is at the end of the tunnel, hopefully. But as you're going through this transition where there's still all these questions, and a lot of leaders say their staff is coming to them, they are upset with them. They feel, but you should know more. You should do something. You're not doing enough to advocate on our behalf, And leaders feel that they're caught in the middle, because in fact, they're not necessarily the decision makers. They're not the decision makers around this issue. And, people feel so demotivated. The ultimate bad fixed mindset has seeped into their team. And they're like, what do I do in this context when I am not the one responsible for these high-level decisions?
Well, Lloyd, the question really is about the types of conversations that they're having, I think. Are they having those open and honest conversations? Are they having regular meetings with the team? Because I know that it's not always, and we know from a leadership perspective, it's not everything that you can say, it's not everything you can explain, because of certain types of discussions. Maybe certain things are confidential, maybe certain things haven't yet been rolled out, etc. But it's important, I think, that what can be disclosed, and you have those conversations. Also, some team building probably needs to be done in between as well. Because if we're not strengthening the team and strengthening this trust in the team, because if the team doesn't trust you, then that also creates a challenge. So we want to make sure that we're putting things in place to, one, increase trust, and then also to ensure that we're having those open and honest conversations, because those also breed, the positive side. And because as long as you have that trust in the team, then it helps to enhance the relationships. And people tend to have the patience. They tend to have more patience and understanding when they really believe that you're working from a position of trust.
Indeed. So lots of comments in the chat. Here's another question. Rafida is asking, can you explain what is a false growth mindset?
A false growth mindset?
Yes, that's the question.
Okay, so false growth mindset, I'll be honest. I'm not familiar with the term of false growth mindset, but if you look at growth mindset, remember you're looking at focusing on your efforts, right? You're focusing on your efforts when you're talking about a growth mindset. So if you're not focusing on efforts, but you're actually focusing on abilities, then that's really a fixed mindset. So you want to really be focusing on your efforts. So, what are the things that you're doing to improve? What are the things that your team is doing to improve? As opposed to, how smart somebody is. Because if you start talking about how smart they are, that's speaking from a perspective of a fixed mindset. But you want to really be focusing on their efforts. When you be genuine, you want to be genuine in your discussions with persons. You want to be honest with yourself, because if you are not being honest, then from that perspective, then I guess you could say that you're being false, that you're having a false growth mindset. But you really want to focus on the efforts of others and the efforts of yourself.
Oh, indeed. And when I saw that question and I listened to your response as well, what came to my mind is, what is the opposite of a false growth mindset? I think maybe the opposite is authenticity. So you really want, we're really focusing on growth and not hype and not deluding ourselves either, Yeah. I see some interesting comments here. Reynolds says, tell stories of persons who have overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges. Historically, failure tends to lead eventually to personal growth and team success. No, exactly. I mean, I remember hearing somebody say in a speech they gave recently, they said, they learned more from their failures and their challenges than they ever did from their successes and their fun times and that sort of thing. And so can I put you a little bit on the spot there, Marsha? Okay. And if you could, without calling any names, you've had certainly a long, illustrious career, which is ongoing, is just pivoting to consulting in the last year or so. What in your career you say was one of those seemingly insurmountable challenges that you're able to overcome through the mindset of possibility?
Okay. You know what? That's an interesting question. But there are challenges that I've experienced where, like I said, I won't be calling any names or anything, but there are challenges where I've experienced where one, starting my career at a young age and having to supervise persons who were much older than me, and having to also have persons supervise me who were much older than me. So it's so many different things that I've had to take into account and prove myself as well. But in terms of having the mindset, because there are so many challenges that can come along, certain ingrained behaviors that I had to try to overcome or try to I don't want to say change, because I can't change the person. But what I did is I had conversations, so with those team members, and explaining to them, yes, because the other thing is that I was promoted from within. So being promoted from within and having then to quote unquote prove yourself, and I had to have certain conversations with those persons who were particularly older than me, and to help them to then transition. So it's a transition for me, it's a transition for them, but we really needed to focus on growing as a team. Because if we didn't focus on growing as a team, then what would happen is that we're going into different directions. And if we don't have that unity, if we don't have that cohesion, then we couldn't operate as a unit. So that is, for me, one of the most important things, being able to to operate as a team, as one unit, but through that growth mindset. And at the time, I didn't know about growth mindset or fixed mindset. I didn't know about that. I just knew that I was focusing on my self-development and the self-development of my team. So I was operating from a perspective of growth mindset, but not even realizing that, that that's what it was. But of course, later on, now I'm able to say, well, okay, yeah, that's what I was doing.
Awesome. Awesome. Love it. They're saying the storytelling is such a good strategy. So thank you for sharing that story.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
At she says it's a long post, but I thought it was so important. Because we can relate to what Maria is saying. So with Carnival she's from Trinidad, it's Carnival time in Trinidad, right? He said you can see firsthand how persons bring a growth mindset in their work in the mass camp, in the steel bands, participating in the calypsos, in participating in the festivals generally, the kind of passion that they bring to it, and intuitively they practice the growth mindset. And as a change advocate, Maria says, and I think I can relate, you can relate, many of us can relate. As a change advocate, I am challenged by the inability to capture that energy in our organizations. Is it that our organizational culture is demanding a fixed mindset? How can we design interventions around that culture? And I can still relate. In Jamaica, February is Reggae Month. And recently I went to the Bob Marley Museum. I think everybody here knows who Bob Marley is. And it was a fascinating tour. And you also saw that the same kind of embodiment of that growth mindset that, Maria talks about in Carnival. It's the same thing that same approach he took to the music, and him and his colleagues, I mean, as just seeing on the weekend, some of the pictures from the children's carnival this year in Trinidad. I mean, just the most intricate, mind-blowing costumes. How can we bring that kind of growth mindset energy to the workplace, our traditional organizations? What are your thoughts?
I think I'd be interested to know what we're doing to within that organization to create buy-in. So, because at the end of the day, if the team doesn't feel as though they have a vested interest in the organization, if it's just a job, then they're not going to give that same type of energy. So, I think really understanding what the culture of the organization is, and if we've dealt with change, we know that making that shift, making that organizational cultural change can be a challenge. It's doable, but it takes some turning of the wheels, But I think really understanding what type of culture you want to have within your organization. But once you understand what type of culture you want to have in your organization, then you plot out, of course, you go through the change management process, but you plot out, okay, so this is the type of culture that I want to have. So what are the steps then that we need to take to have this change? What are some of the things that we need to do? Do we need to do some team activities? Do we need to do some team building activities? Do we need to do some on the job training? What are some of the things that we need to do within our organization? Because, there's no one answer fits all, but it's really about within your particular organization. What are some of the things? And of course, get the buy-in get the feedback, from the team, because, who knows better than the team as to why they may not be participating in certain activities. Maybe there's some underlying issues from the past that you may not be aware of, if you're new in the organization or something like that. But it's really, getting the understanding from them as to what are some of the issues, what are some of the challenges that may prevent, and then also saying, okay, how can we build together? How can we enhance? Maybe have some friendly team competition. So maybe you have some sort of a competition within the organization. And, because what that does is it actually then creates synergy among the team. as they're working to compete for something within the organization. Okay, you know, what are what's attracting them? You know, think about what are the things that are attracting them that will help to strengthen them and strengthen the team. So, I mean, that could go in a number of different directions, Lori. It really could.
But
it
you
could
know,
go in a number of directions.
Yeah, indeed. And so, you know, what strikes me really is this business of intentionality. I have a quotation, it's my own, and I mean, the people who have do my leadership program, not mine, but CARICAD leadership programs, always hear me say this. Leadership doesn't happen by chance, it happens by intention.
Yes.
And we have to be very intentional about creating the organizational culture that we want. Because culture happens whether we are focusing on it intentionally or not.
Yes. Yes.
And unfortunately, when we don't pay attention to it, what emerges is what we don't want. Right? It's what we don't want. So we have to be very intentional and strategic about it. And we have to commit time and resources to it. Right?
Yes.
So many people complain, oh, the culture is killing us. And if I ask them, so what's your strategy for your culture?
Exactly.
They look at me like deer in headlights. What are you talking about? Because they don't have a strategy. So you allow the thing to emerge that you don't want. And leaders, we allow it.
Yes.
And no, that's tough to hear. You say, oh, no, I inherited my team. Yes, you inherited the team 3 years ago. It's your team now.
It's your team.
It's your team. It's your team. So, we are winding down. We're going to come to a time of just sharing a few announcements and to allow you
let me
time
just stop
to
sharing.
complete a kind of survey. Yes. But Marsha, let me ask you this. If you wanted to share, you know, the one key takeaway, if we don't remember anything else, what should we remember about the mindset for possibility?
All right. So, you know, the one thing, guys, remember that one, you can put your mind to anything that you choose to, okay? You can accomplish anything you can accomplish anything that you put your mind to, okay? Remember that your mindset is your self-talk. It's what you say to yourself about yourself. So be careful, be very careful about what you're telling yourself, okay? Remember that you're always with yourself. It may sound weird, but you're always with yourself. So be very, very careful to tell yourself positive things, okay? Be very careful of what you're saying to yourself, all right? Remember, you have a mindset for growth and it's within you, even if you may not always feel that way. Yes, you're gonna have challenges, but even with having challenges, understand that embrace those challenges and grow and develop through those challenges.
Marsha, it has been an absolute pleasure and delight.
And mine as well.
It's truly been an empowering session. Thank you for your graciousness, your generosity in preparing this presentation and sharing it so exuberantly with us.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure as well, Lori. Thank you.
And so guys, all the persons who have registered for this webinar, you will get a link to the webinar and we send you a PDF of the slides as well. And just to let you know that we will be continuing as usual our webinar series. And so look out for our next webinar topic. Now, I don't have a topic yet because I am waiting, but not that we just to make sure that the person has confirmed, but it is most likely to be about an innovative area of human resource policy in the public sector HR context in our region. All right, so you don't want to miss that. And we encourage you, please visit our YouTube channel, Caribbean Center for Development Administration. There are lots of resources there, past webinars, and visit our website, caricad.net. If you have an interest in learning more about our services at CARICAD, go to the website, and also you can email us at info info@caricad.net. I repeat, info@caricad.net. And as usual, we always want to get feedback from you guys. And so our virtual producer, Roger, will put a link in the chat momentarily to ask you to just fill out a very short survey poll. There it is. We like to get your feedback. And some of the things that are going to be coming up later this year. And so during the month of May, we will have our masterclass series. So these are really webinars, but longer in length. And this year, we're going to be focusing on building capacity in the area of climate governance. So you can look out for that information. And in July, we are going to be having our virtual one-day public sector conference for our region. And so we are going to be sending out that information in the upcoming months, and you don't want to miss. And please, when you get our invitations, you know that especially our webinars, they are free. We want you to not just keep the information to yourself, but share it with your team, share it with your other colleagues. All right? And so with that, we just want to thank you for attending. Please just finish the feedback poll for us. And we wish for you all the best for the rest of the workday. Thank you all very much.